Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Know Your City. It's a regular program of the League of Women Voters of Waltham. My name is Annette Reynolds, and I'm pleased to be here with Michael Garvin. Michael is Waltham's traffic engineer. And in preparation for these sessions, I get on the telephone, speak with people, and say, tell me a little bit about what you do and what I need to know. And he told me, and I still don't know what he does. So I'm going to ask you, Michael, what are your primary responsibilities?
Thank you. So first, let me thank the League of Women Voters and everyone here today for inviting me. I looked it up. This is actually my second appearance before you since I've been the traffic engineer for the city. I looked up when the last time was. It was March of 2013. So I was invited way back then to meet the group. And that was pre-Zoom, so we actually met in person over at the library and had as I remember, a very nice chat at that point. So thank you for inviting me back. In terms of what my responsibilities are in this role, I report to the Waltham Traffic Commission, so I get my direction, from them on what my job responsibilities are. The Traffic Commission meets once a month, and they'll give me assignments for various traffic studies or other things to do. So that really is the bulk of my responsibilities is acting on whatever my direction from Traffic Commission is. Beyond that, my responsibilities are to design improvements in transportation and traffic across the city. So that could be anywhere from some signs or some pavement markings or a new traffic signal. We can get into that a little bit as we discuss this. When there are developments coming before the city, they submit a traffic study as part of all the approvals they need to get. So I review that traffic study. I'll make comments on it and participate in that. Our department maintains all of the signs on the streets throughout the city, the pavement markings, so all the paint lines and everything like that. And also we have the parking enforcement responsibility in the downtown area. So the Main Street, Moody Street area, we patrol the parking and make sure people are following those rules. So those are kind of my general responsibilities, for this department.
Well, how many people are in the department?
So let's see. Here in the office, we're a relatively small department as compared to other departments in the city. Here in the office, there's just myself. There's a junior engineer that works with me, and we have an office assistant who's the admin person. Those are the three people who are here in this office. And the three of us are the ones who, collectively we'll do the traffic studies, write the reports for Traffic Commission, and prepare the Traffic Commission reports. Right here's the latest one that everyone in Traffic Commission gets, and I'm sure reads through diligently before the meetings and is prepared for the meetings. But that's a lot of work for that, and it's really just the three of us who do that. And then also in this department, there's the sign and paint crew. So they have a garage, down the street where they have all their material. So there's two people year round in that division who will fabricate the signs, install the signs. They have the paint machine that they go out on the street and paint the yellow lines or the white lines. In the summertime, we hire 2 additional seasonal workers to help out with the painting part during the warmer months. But those are just for the 4 months of the year that it's warm. And then in the parking division, we have 3 parking control officers. PCOs, we call them. So they patrol on the street, on Moody Street and Main Street, and in the municipal lots, and write tickets if anyone's not following the rules. And also in the parking division, there's one person who's a meter repair person, collects the money out of the machines, maintains the machines and things like that. So that's really it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people year round, plus those 2 seasonal people in the summer.
Okay. Now you mentioned the Traffic Commission. Tell us more about that group.
Sure. So the Traffic Commission is made up of 7 department heads, and it's actually defined which department heads are on the Traffic Commission through a state legislation. So it's the police chief, the fire chief, the public works director, the city clerk, the planning director, the wires inspector, and the treasurer. So each of those, department heads has an interest in some way in traffic and transportation. So the 7 of them are my boss collectively. And the Traffic Commission meets once a month for 10 months out of the year. They don't meet in July or August. And like I said, I will prepare these reports for all the various items that are before the Traffic Commission. The public can see what the agenda is on the upcoming meeting. We just had our last meeting a week ago from today. And then our next meeting will be in another 3 weeks, I think. So the public can see what we're going to talk about. The public can attend the meeting. There's a way for the public to get items onto our agenda. There's either a citizen petition that if you go on our website, you can print out the form, collect signatures for an item that you're interested in, say parking regulations in your neighborhood, for example. If there's enough signatures that support that, you can submit that. That's a way to get onto our agenda. Or the citizens can reach out to the elected officials, probably their ward counselor, to see if that person would sponsor an item. And either the counselors or the mayor or a member of the Traffic Commission can just automatically add an item to the agenda. So that's kind of what the Traffic Commission is comprised of. That they're the ones who fill up most of my time with all the assignments, and I'm happy to do that. So that's what we do.
I want to tell everybody before these meetings, I generally send a list of questions or areas that we'd like to go over. But I have a couple that aren't on my list, Michael, so I hope that you'll help with me. Does the Traffic Commission, how do they determine their agenda? Is there an annual plan? Is there a monthly plan? How does that come together?
So if you look on our agendas, it's kind of divided into 3 sections. So there's petitioned items. So those are new items that are either introduced by an elected official or a citizen petition, or if there's a development that needs approval, they'll submit a traffic study, things like that. So the petitioned items are the brand new items that are just being introduced. Then the next section is the tabled items. So those are items that have already been introduced but not yet resolved. Usually those are something like, hey, we want a traffic study on this street. And so, okay, traffic engineering, go out and perform the study and then come back. So we'll come back a month or 2 later and say, here's the results of the traffic study. We take it off the tabled list. And then the third section on the agenda is department reports. So that's usually just me giving an update on various items to the Traffic Commission that I initiate those items. And those aren't usually, a new legislation or regulation rather, but it's just kind of an update on progress on different projects is typically what I do for that.
So what does your typical workday look like?
So every day is a little bit different and unpredictable. which is, I think, a good thing because it keeps me on my toes. But I went through the, exercise of today, just writing down the various things I worked on today. And today I would say is kind of a typical day. There's a bunch of things on the list here. So first thing I did in the morning is I went out to the intersection of Beaver Street and Warren Street. There's a new cut.
A lot of talking about that online.
That is true. For good reason. So there is a new traffic light there, but there's been some, hiccups on the operation of that. So I met out there with the designer, the folks that design the actual signal, and we're working through some remedies of that. At that location, part of the problem is we currently have a big detour in place because of Trapello Road. There's a lot more cars going through that intersection than normal. So that's affecting the operation of the new signal, but we're trying to introduce some new things to make that work better. That started off my day. Then we went over to Hammond Street. We have a traffic study over there to determine whether a rectangular rapid flashing beacon should be installed on Hammond Street at the rail trail crossing. So we're doing a study there of traffic volumes. Then I worked with the engineering department. There's going to be a new municipal parking lot at Moody Street and Ash Street. And I'm working through some of the design elements of that. There's going to be a pay station that's installed there and some signs for the parking spaces. I think there's going to be 39 new parking spaces there in a part of Moody Street that desperately needs more parking. Then I was working with people may have noticed that the bus shelters on Carter Street were removed recently. We've ordered some new bus shelters that are a little bit more modern, and I'm working with the manufacturer on getting those delivered to the city, probably in the next few weeks. So I was working with that manufacturer. Then I spoke to a resident on the telephone who had some concerns about parking on their street. So I kind of walked through the process with that resident and kind of allowed him to become more knowledgeable on how to approach traffic commission on a change. So probably every day I talk to at least one resident on the phone. It's a big part of my job. Then I got an update on the Embassy parking garage. You may know that that's been closed for the last few months for repairs. So I got an update from the building maintenance department on the progress of that, and we expect that to be complete in the next month or so. Then I went over, there's a study that I was directed to do over on Beaver Street by the Girl Scout camp to look to see if a new crosswalk should be installed there. So I went out there to study that. I took measurements and photos over there. Then, well, let's see here. I was talking to the designers of the new traffic or revised traffic signal at Maine, Gore, Barbara, and Warren. That's a particularly confusing traffic signal that I'm eager to get, reconstructed and improved. So we have a design firm working on that. So I coordinated with them today about scheduling a neighborhood meeting for the residents around there and finalizing that design. Then I was on a different Zoom meeting this afternoon with the MBTA, where they were giving an update on what they call their Better Bus project. So that's a project where the MBTA is really rethinking their bus lines across their whole system to provide better service and more frequent service on some of the routes. For Waltham, it's not going to be imminent. I think we're in phase 3. They're about to implement phase 1. So we're a couple years away from it affecting Waltham, but I got an update on that. And then finally on my note, I reviewed, anyone who watched Traffic Commission last week saw that there's a new Moody Street pedestrian zone study. So I was reading through that and reviewing that to get ready for the next Traffic Commission meeting. So that's kind of a list of what I worked on today, and that's a typical day, but tomorrow will be different. So
I'm exhausted. I don't mind saying that. What do you like best about the job?
what do I like most? So, you know, as an engineer, you know, I appreciate challenges, and I appreciate things that are difficult to solve and working through and coming up with a solution. And traffic, anyone could tell you that that's like one of the top issues in the city. So I enjoy the challenges. I enjoy, you know, in my way, making a difference in the community, working on anything from small improvements, you know, on one corner of one intersection to the more large scale projects like, say, Piety Corner, reconstruction, things like that. So I like it all like that. I like all the people I work with, either the Traffic Commission or the elected officials. I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy the employees of my department are really, really good, and it's a good team. And then lastly, I enjoy, I guess, meeting the public. You know, every time I go out to a site, you know, people will come up to us and they'll see it says traffic on our shirt there, and they'll start talking about traffic, and I'm, you know, pleased to meet and hear from the public as well.
So you mentioned the Piety Corner project. Can you give me an update on it? I go by that every day. When do you expect to be finished and
well, the construction is very active this week. So there's kind of a little bit of a pinch point because they've had to reduce some of the lanes, but they're about to repave the whole intersection, build the sidewalk over on the side of Totten Pond Road where the church is, and then, you know, finalize the project. So there's been several delays over the course of that project, as everyone realizes. A lot of that was due to the conflict of this project and the MWRA project, and our project had to kind of wait until MWRA was out of there. So it took longer than anyone expected or hoped for, but we've already seen positive benefits from what we've already done. So just if you look at the accident rate that was there, that was always, before this project started, it was probably at the top of the list of the whole city of the number of accidents that occurred. Once we shifted the road over, so the intersection kind of shrunk down, you know, the frequency of the accidents at that location dropped significantly. And I expect once the whole project is done, it'll drop even further. So just in terms of safety, it's really been a big benefit. That was a, you know, poorly laid out intersection before we started, and it's already much better. I know it's frustrating in the length of time it takes, but it's going to be quite a bit better when it's done.
You mentioned the MWRA. I live on Lake Street. Lexington Street is a major. Are you involved in that at all?
I'm only involved when, in terms of there's periodic meetings between the city and the contractor to review, you know, traffic management plans, and I kind of give input on that. But, you know, that's really being run through the state, even though it affects the city quite a bit. So I'm involved a little bit, but I'm not really leading that project.
I've got some off-the-wall questions. Are you ready?
Sure.
Two of the major complaints that we hear is the traffic and the congestion, and my big bugaboo is speeding. Are there methods that can be used to slow down traffic? I live on Lake Street, and sometimes it's like a drag race out front. Are these areas of concern for your department?
Certainly, and that's one of the biggest, complaints we get from the public. And it's not in one area of the city; it's all across town. So I always say to the Traffic Commission that signs only do so much; they don't really affect people's behavior. So if there's a street where people are driving too fast on, just putting up a sign isn't going to be something that cures everything. So it's really more physical design of either narrowing the street or some kind of diversion of traffic that forces people to slow down. So it's been a little bit of a challenge to implement that sometimes. There are people on the Traffic Commission that are dead set against speed bumps, especially as they impact emergency response time, and that's understandable. So it's always a bit of a balancing act to increase the safety at a location and really address all the needs of everyone.
If I remember correctly, we did have that discussion a few years back about Lake Street. You and I did. What would you change about your job if you could?
So I guess I've kind of alluded to it already that one thing that might be frustrating is just how long things take in government, either to secure funding for a project, or just see a project through to completion. And Piety Corner is the prime example of that. It's just how long that project takes. So, I guess I wish that things could move faster, but it's understandable why they don't.
Okay. What else would you like to tell us?
So
what did I forget to ask you?
Say that part again.
Or what did I forget to ask you?
I guess I would say that, although I don't personally live in Waltham, I really enjoy this job. I really enjoy and really love working for Waltham. I've grown to really love it. Like I said, I like working with all the people I do, and I like meeting all the people that live in the city. This city is unique in terms of how passionate everyone seems to be about the city and about issues confronting the city. So I feel that our department, traffic engineering, we are making a difference in our way. We're making the roads safer. We're making the traffic flow more efficient. We have more work to do. There are plenty of complaints out there, and I actually welcome the complaints. So for me, the complaints I hear, it really gives us, I guess, a focus on what our next goals are and what improvements we can continue to make. And I'll keep striving to do that. So there's ways to reach us. You can either come into our office to speak to us. You can call the traffic engineering office, or on the website, there's a I guess a form there you can submit any comments that go right directly to me, and I'll look into that and address it. So yeah, I welcome the complaints. I welcome the challenges.
Okay. Are you open to taking questions from the audience?
I sure am.
Okay. Comment from Leah regarding traffic commission or engineer does not specify cars. Traffic is movement on public ways, including roads. Nothing implies optimization for cars. Cars may be a very inefficient use of public ways. Agreed. Okay. If you wish, you can unmute yourself and just ask the question. Go ahead, Diana.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. I was wondering what it would take, assuming I've got this right, that our light system, the traffic lights, that they're not coordinated in a way that more modern systems might be. how expensive and how difficult would it be to put in a more coordinated system? And would you do it by sectors, or would you do it the whole city? How would you go about a thing like that?
So that's a great question. And one of the projects that we've been working on recently, I've been working with the wires department on this, is upgrading a lot of the traffic signals across the city. So, a lot of what we call the detection on the traffic signals weren't up to speed. So we've installed new cameras to detect the traffic better and keep the signals working more efficiently. And so I think even now, if you drive through some of the problem locations, you may notice that the traffic lights are being more responsive now. I hope you noticed that. But the last piece of that project that hasn't been implemented yet is the better coordination of the signals on Main Street, right by the Common. So Main and Moody, Main and Lexington, Main and Church and Elm. So when that part of the project is complete, you'll see those three signals, interact better together. So you won't have to stop at the red light each time. That's the goal. So we're trying to implement that. So that's really going to be the start of it, and it's going to be something that we can expand on, or we can implement similar things in other parts of the city. I know some of out by Route 128, some of the signals out there. There's plans to coordinate the signals out that way a little bit better from the developers that are coming into the city.
John?
Yeah, a related issue, which is I'm glad you're updating detection. I've had an issue for a decade now with the cities installing magnetic, electromagnetic loop detectors, which will not detect a bicycle or a motorcycle reliably. And I'm really hoping the city can get on board. I mean, even there are better ways to pattern the wires in the street if it's going to be a loop detector. But it's been very frustrating because, I come up to an intersection and the light doesn't change unless a car also arrives.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to leave soon, by the
Okay.
way, so
Thank you
I
for the question.
apologize again.
The answer will be on the recording.
Thank you. I'm can be here a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I can address that, I think, like I said on the answer to the last question, a lot of the detection that we're implementing now, we're putting in cameras where we can. So cameras are set up to detect bicycles and motorcycles better than a loop detector will. So I think over time, the loop detectors in the ground are going to be phased out and replaced with better detection. So that's my goal. That's obviously a funding issue. So it's not going to happen overnight, but it's definitely a goal that I'm working towards.
Deb, did you have a question?
Yes. The new parking on Ash, is that going to have a solar panel canopy over it?
No, nope. So the design of that lot was managed through the engineering department, but I've worked with them and I know the design. So that's just going to be an open air parking lot, and it'll have it. From my role, it's going to have one parking pay station, and that you'll have to pay to park in that lot only up until 5 o'clock. It'll be free after 5 o'clock, but there's no plans for the solar on that over that lot.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Mike. One thought came to mind as you've been speaking. Bicycles. There's a lot of news recently about Somerville and Cambridge and bicycle paths. And is there any focus from any department on bicycle safety and bicycles and cars on our roads here in the city?
So that is definitely an interest of mine and a priority for Traffic Commission. I'm making it a priority now. And again, it's not something that's going to be one solution fits all. As you know, we have the rail trail that's opened, and the safety of the crossings of that rail trail across the streets has been considered as much as possible, and we're fine tuning some of those things even after the rail trail is open. But what I always say is, once we build the rail trail, we can't say we're done thinking about bicycles. A bicycle can travel on any street in the city other than Route 128. So on every street, we should always think about how can we accommodate a bicyclist. And it's just going to be something that's addressed, project by project, other than if additional connections are considered, large scale. I know the mayor's been before the Traffic Commission talking about an off-road bicycle path that goes north-south, parallel to Lexington Street. So I don't know when that would become an actual project, but it's things that are being thought about, by the elected officials at this point.
Thank you. Diana, did you have another question? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. I muted you when you weren't looking.
Yeah, because I forgot to unmute, to remute. Am I open now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I had one quick question. When you see something, where a sign or something isn't quite right, do we just report it to you?
Yeah, if a sign is knocked down, or there's a missing sign, or a sign you think is saying the wrong thing, you can call my office or email me, and we're the ones that can address that. If it's a sign for a new regulation, say you want parking on one side of the street but not the other, something like that.
This is just a mistake. This is actually
yeah.
a walk sign that's twisted so you can't see it on the other side of the street to see when it tells you to walk.
Okay. I mean, you can tell me the location now, I'll write it down, but in the future you can.
I can tell you right now, it's across from the Elks Club next to the sub shop. You can see a walk sign if you're walking from the sub shop to the Elks Club, to go to the farmer's market. But when you're on the way back, the sign isn't it's turned the wrong way. It's turned in a way you can't see.
So that's the walk, like part of the traffic light, right?
Yeah.
The electronic. So it's funny you mentioned that.
It's twisted.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because one of the things my department is doing is we're going through one by one and doing an inventory of each traffic signal. And we just did that signal, which is right outside my door here, 2 weeks ago. And we noticed that there actually should be 2 more pedestrian signal heads in the island there that are missing. So if you're going from the sub shop to the island over to the former Elks Club, it's really 2 crossings, right? So you should have a ped head in the island and then another one over to that other corner. So we've reported that to the wires department, and that's on their list to correct. So we're aware of exactly what you described.
Good. It's a simple question. I had a little bit, maybe, I don't know if it's complex or even if my information is correct. I heard that there was supposed to be a study done of Moody Street to look again at the closure. That was from like a year ago. Is that true? And if so, where is it? And what's going on with it?
So the draft of that just got released 1 week ago at the Traffic Commission meeting for September. I'm reviewing it now, and we're going to have a little bit more in-depth presentation of it at the October meeting. And I think the draft of the report is available online. in the city webpage under the planning department tab. So I think the public can look at that now. But there will, at the October meeting for Traffic Commission, there will be a more detailed presentation of that. I think they had 3 different options in there of how to proceed. So we'll be talking about that in 3 weeks.
Saul shared a link in the chat that takes you right to there it is, the page with that report. Okay. Any other questions? No. Deb, you got another one?
Yeah. It's easy to tell traffic because you can tick it off. How do you tell when you need more parking? What is that based?
So yeah, we back in 2015, we hired a consultant to do the transportation master plan for the city. So it looked at a number of different, items, and that report's still available on the traffic engineering tab of the city webpage. But they had a whole section in there on parking, and particularly in the downtown part of the city. And their conclusion, and this 2015 was pre-pandemic, so it might be a little bit different now. But their conclusion was there was adequate parking downtown, but it wasn't necessarily distributed right. So there were some strategies in there to, better distribute the parking at different times of the day, depending in different areas. So it's definitely something that we're looking into. And I think we need to restudy some of the areas because post-pandemic, it's a little bit different than it was 9 years ago, right? So the introduction of the parking lot at Ash Street is part of the solution because the upper Moody Street there really didn't have any municipal lots. So that is a part of the city that really is a crunch for parking supply. So we're addressing that with that project.
Thank you.
Okay. Mike, thank you so much. I'm sure I speak for everybody. It has been extremely informative and just a delight to have you here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. And I hope you can invite me again. I had a great time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night, everybody. See you at the next.
Night.